right?
Right.
And typical, I want to say invasion, but how you would forcefully serve a search warrant after giving proper notification. But they basically had a whole portion of this neighborhood that couldn't go out of their house, couldn't go to work. Clearly, you've got snipers and perimeters set up. This person's probably fairly dangerous, so now I'm in danger.
Right.
And the person I was talking to said, "Yeah, I assure you, this property here is safe. If that person happens to get away and jumps over this fence, this is gonna get ended real quick."
Yeah.
Old Rover out back can take care of business.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's
that
gonna be handled.
yeah, that
Or-
a few 9 millimeters to the chest,
Yeah.
and hey, you can put the bullhorn away.
Look, YouTube just put us up.
But so as I was talking to this person, they were furious. They were like,
Yeah.
"Listen, hey, I understand, being safe, right, and trying to keep everybody safe, but hey, this is his perspective was I was illegally detained in my house."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." However, when you got snipers and shit, I guess you can't really just be out there pushing your luck with it.
No, you don't want to give it a shot.
I prefer not to prove my point by getting blasted by the freaking sniper.
Right. Exactly.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I agree with that dude. I think he was illegally detained. I mean, there's no reason, unless that person was in his yard or that close to his house. Now, I understand cops. They apparently whoever they were going to serve this warrant on, they perceived as extremely dangerous.
Sure. I would hope so. Hope it wasn't a 90-year-old grandma,
Right?
that you're
Yeah.
doing all this for. But
A little old lady. Hey, baby. Hey, baby, don't shoot. I got my meth in the bathtub.
if you were trying to detain Dan,
you-
could you just hit like 3 microwaves all at once?
Yeah,
and-
man. You
Can
just
you
EMP
really be
his
sure
ass.
he was that dangerous, though? I mean, look what the FBI did to that freaking pro-life activist.
Sure,
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds like a similar situation.
possibly.
but yeah, I agree, man. I mean, look, I'm not. Am I being detained? That would have been my question. I've got to go to work.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have to shoot me, and that's going to be bad PR for you guys.
I probably would have just said, I got to go to work, and got in my truck and started to back out of the driveway.
Yeah,
And, I mean, what are they going to do?
yeah. Well,
No,
I guess worst case scenario, they'd shoot your ass.
Well, if they did that, my wife would be set for life.
Valid point.
Right?
And
I
you
mean,
guys
you're
might
in a
even
different
have a case.
situation.
You guys might even have a case of the podcast being set for life
Right.
because they destroyed our business.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Because 33% of it.
and what this person said to me over and over, "Hey, I'm not trying to be anti-police. I'm not trying." And I said, "Listen," I said, "You've actually come to the right spot."
Yeah. Right.
Because I think this is a huge blind spot for liberty-minded folks, for people on the right, Republicans, whatever you want to call it. And I make the joke all the time of the big truck, and it's got the Trump sticker, it's got the back of the blue flag, and then it's got the don't tread the Gadsden flag, don't tread on me. Like, okay, hey buddy, those two, the last two there, are incompatible with each other.
Right.
That whole department is meant to tread on your rights. You can say it's necessary. There are certain necessary functions. However, when, as I'm explaining to my daughter, hey, if you get pulled over, here's the process. I have to explain to her, I don't care what they do to you. Just come home safe. That person is heavily armed and has a right to use that firearm.
Right.
It used to be where the people in those positions, the police, positions of authority that had the ability to violate your rights, exercise those with the knowledge that they were going to not catch all the criminals because they couldn't do certain things
Sure.
to the public. And I can remember watching cop shows on TV and cop movies with all the frustration of getting a warrant and wiretaps and all that stuff. It was all the big frustrated issue with being a cop. But you have to lean to the side of, we can't affect anybody who isn't guilty of a crime in what we're doing.
Right.
They don't
Yeah.
do that
Yeah.
anymore.
No.
It's the opposite of that. It's like, we're going to catch this guy who's guilty of a crime regardless of the collateral damage,
Well, I also think that
to an extent.
on the right, we have propped law enforcement up, and I don't know how many quote unquote small government conservatives have talked about adding funding to this. And okay, well, like as I explained to my daughter, hey, that little piece of aluminum on the back of your car, it's got a little sticker on it, and if you don't get that little sticker replaced in the time frame that the state of Florida deems necessary, somebody with a firearm and license to use it is going to detain you.
Yeah.
And
Pretty
if you
quick.
refuse, there's a chance that you could
Right.
lose your life.
Yeah.
To me, how can we support something like that? It's not that we can't support police. We have to think deeply and a little bit more nuanced than, oh, we back the blue. Like, okay,
no,
do we
you
back
can-
the blue when
you
they're
know
beating
what?
the shit like the
You-
folks in Memphis that beat that kid to death? Do we back those?
That's the thing. It's not all or nothing. Just because we are critical of somebody in their profession, that's that's even local county government. That's everything. Just because we're critical of somebody in that position doesn't mean we're not in favor of those individuals. If you go out there and you fuck up and you do something stupid, by God, I'm going to call you on it.
Look, we are completely overmanaged, micromanaged from a laws standpoint, code standpoint. Walton County, with less than 100,000 residents, has 600 pages of laws, codes, whatever the hell you call the other stuff.
Yeah.
600 pages. That's before you get to the state of Florida, before you get any federal laws. You cannot tell me that that is the country that our founders envisioned.
It's not.
Okay, so how do we start to change the conversation on our side? I like our sheriff. I think our sheriff does a good job. I've had minimal run-ins with a sheriff's deputy or anybody in this county in law enforcement that I would say is even remotely negative.
Yeah.
Well, we can start by not ceding more power to them, like for example, on our county page, where you have conservatives that are on there cheering for the county to buy $50 million worth of land to open up a senior center, a rec center, a county pool, etc.
Now, Travis ain't supposed to talk local.
Well,
so.
no, we're talking law enforcement.
Well,
I mean, it's
But
simple. I
it's
think
the same
a-
thing. I mean, it's
Right.
law enforcement is a part of government.
Yes. See, and that's the point that
They
most
take
conservatives
a
miss.
they have a huge.
Well, it's education
in our
and law
county.
enforcement.
It's a very significant part.
Yeah, it's
of
education,
our-
law
of our-
enforcement,
our
top two
taxes.
expenditures, and most likely every state and every county, every city, it's those two. It's education
Yeah.
and law enforcement.
Yeah, they're a government entity,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
applies. What I'm saying is strictly about our county commissioners doing stuff. But my point is, we have local people who are supposed to be conservative that continue to want to give them this power.
Yes.
So, all right, we've got a couple of comments that I want to bring up. John Nash says if you can exit without crossing the path of their functions, they should have no reason to not let you leave. I agree with that. When we were talking about the 600 pages laws, he says how many of those laws are redundant. My comment via the Facebook page was probably several. Kevin Rowland, my buddy, who likes Thin Mints for some reason, he says, be careful with that line of reasoning. Criminals, just as unscrupulous entities in war, will actively take advantage of every opportunity provided based on policies. Oh, man.
Okay, so all right, so here's a question posed by Benjamin Franklin. Is it better for 100 guilty people to get away than one innocent person suffer? That was a question posed by Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
Well, that was the point I was making earlier.
Right.
Is you err to the side of not affecting anybody who did not commit a crime.
Yeah.
You're there to protect the local citizens.
Because I'll be honest with you, in my world, what I would have said should have happened was a little, hey, excuse me, sir. Just so you know, we're serving a search warrant. You got to leave. exit this way. However, if the firearm that we assume you have as an American citizen, and you probably should have, and you're well trained on it, you know what? You should probably have it ready.
Yeah, when I lived in Macon, Georgia, I assumed the guy next door to me was dealing drugs because he had cars coming all through the night, all through the day.
You never get prices or anything?
You know what? I never saw him.
Oh, okay.
He was. I saw his honey. I did see him once or twice coming in as I was going out or something like that. And I didn't, one day I was at home working, and I had a dude knock on my door, which was weird because I live in a cul-de-sac in a gated neighborhood. So you don't get a lot of people knocking on your door. So I looked out and I was like, "Yeah, can I help you?" And he showed me a badge. He was a federal marshal. And he showed me a picture. So I opened the door, and he showed me a picture. And he said, "Hey, does this dude live? Have you seen this guy entering or leaving this place next door?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have." Yeah, I said, "Yeah, he lives right there." He says, "All right." And this is what this dude said. Federal marshal says, "All right, just so you know, if you need to go somewhere or you need to leave, probably ought to go ahead and do that in the next few minutes because we're about to bust his ass." That's exactly what he said,
Yep.
Verbatim. And I said, "Cool." I said, "I don't have anywhere to go. I'm going to sit here and watch this."
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
You're right, yeah.
Right. And so my question is, I'm not posing the question, do we need law enforcement? Of course we do.
Right?
However, we look at, so here's a thought I had yesterday. We would say the part of the county we live in has an extremely low crime rate. Part of the
Right.
reason I moved here is a low crime rate. And if you look at our county as a whole, it's a low crime rate. However, do you think the crime rate in the area we live is different than, let's say, Defuniak, Mossy Head? Let's look at it from an income standpoint. Do you think there's a difference?
Well,
across the
Emil Durkheim, the father of modern sociology, had a theory, and it was that crime, there's a correlation of crime in direct proportion to poverty.
Absolutely.
So during depressions and recessions, crime rate goes up.
Right.
And I think because there's an income gap between where we live in Walton County and Defuniak and Ponce and Milton and all of those places, I think the crime is most definitively different. I think that the type of criminals that are there are probably more dangerous. And I'm sure Kevin lives up that way, so he'll probably correct me if I'm wrong. But I to your point, I think the crimes are different.
Okay, but why should someone who has spent a grand total of 12 hours in jail, who was in a drunk tank in Tuscaloosa,
Yeah.
the charge of public intoxication was not incorrect, the circumstances were correct. Okay. Well, why do I have to be governed the exact same way? You're governing to the lowest common denominator.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, but and I'm with you. But I understand Kevin's point. You got a dangerous criminal in an area that if police don't do this, that innocent people could get hurt.
Okay. Well,
and that's understandable. But
that
to
doesn't
this
tread on
situation,
my rights.
this
To
particular
leave my property and do whatever the hell I want to do on my property.
I'm actually exiting the scene of it. But
Yeah, but you're smart enough not to drive through.
Correct,
frickin'
yeah.
so
I'm
Kevin brought up another scenario. If this was an apartment complex, and it's a 3-story apartment complex, and I'm paraphrasing, criminal lives right dead center of the apartment complex on the second floor.
Mhm.
Do you not try to attempt to keep people in those surrounding apartments, in their apartments, for their safety?
I mean, you can. I mean,
But my question for your scenario
Right.
is, why didn't the cop say, "Hey, we're about to serve a warrant. For your safety, you should probably stay in the
yes.
house.
Why does it go straight into
Well,
Get
and-
your ass back in the house."
like Jack Boot thug mode, and to get your ass back in the house or you'll go to jail? Now, I don't think that was said, but that's typically the implication.
Yeah.
Why would it go directly to, well, now you're
you would think most police would be smart and cordial about it. Not cordial, but presented in a way in which the person who's receiving that information isn't irritated and angered by it. Like,
Well, obviously, customer service is not necessarily part of your
No, but still, listen,
training
you
as a
can-
law enforcement officer.
Yeah, but,
but
there's
there
still
is a
nuances to communication.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
They teach communication
As a taxpaying
skills.
citizen, there's a portion of your paycheck that I contributed to. I deserve some level of respect.
Say that to
Yeah.
a cop.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
You'll
'cause-
get the opposite of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
fine.
they take that as an insult.
No, okay, well, I mean, that's the reality. That's true. But anyways, my whole point was the right, or whatever you want to call it, has glorified this for so long, and it's a necessary part of our society. I agree. However, we are so far past the necessary part. Okay, like it is me not having the proper sticker on the little piece of aluminum on the vehicle that I've already paid sales tax for.
Sure.
Is that what we need a police officer going around for? Is that what we need them for? Or, hey, how about you go bust that meth ring that's in Freeport? We know there's one. Go bust it.
Yeah.
Isn't that a better use of our time? Doesn't that keep the community more safe? However, you know what? Your little sticker wasn't correct. You didn't give us more taxes in the time frame we deemed necessary. So now a guy with a gun is going to stop you.
Well, you know how I feel about that. I unless it's a professional license that is there to protect the safety of others, like a physician's license or a nurse license or something like that. I don't think we should have to license our cars. I don't think. Yeah, you need to prove to somebody that you are capable of driving on a road, but we shouldn't be taxed annually or biannually, because you can pay it in Florida for multiple
Right.
years.
So see that is the thought process that I think we have to get into, because it's not that we want to defund the police, even though I would be for a good portion of that. But it is a way of thinking that is government. It's
Yeah.
called law enforcement. You know who enforced all the mask mandates? Law enforcement.
Law enforcement.
It,
Yeah.
wasn't, it wasn't the FBI going to little small towns and throwing grannies
No,
down
it
on
was
the ground.
the
It was local law enforcement.
Local law enforcement, yep.
Okay. And it wasn't all these things, and we tend to look at it, and I think I've asked this question a million times before. If I say the FBI to anybody that listens to our podcast or is watching now, everybody's upset. Like, okay, well, that's just federal law enforcement.
Yeah.
And they're bad, but there's local law enforcement that's just bad. May not be here. Maybe. I don't know.
I think the point is, in what we're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, just because you got a star or a badge on your chest doesn't automatically absolve you from being a shitty person. We can be critical of law enforcement and how they operate, because the thing is, if I haven't committed a crime, I haven't infringed on somebody's rights, I have not violently, I'm not a violent danger to the scenario. In all reality, my rights should not be infringed upon.
Agreed.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree, but I also understand the point Kevin was making, where he's like, they may not necessarily trying to be infringing on your rights. They're trying to keep you from getting near a situation that you could be harmed.
Sure. And sometimes safety doesn't warrant niceness. I get that. I absolutely get that.
Kevin makes another good point, where it's like, if they find themselves in that type of scenario where they have to worry about neighbors, etc., you got to wonder, is that the best time to execute that warrant?
Look,
well, it could be a situation where they've been trying to catch this guy.
Yeah, but
I get that.
How the warrant was executed, I have no issue. It is.
Well, but he's more talking about like time of day. It's like,
Sure. Well,
you
look,
come at 8:30 in the morning when everybody's leaving for work, or 6 or whatever,
right.
go to school,
and,
whatever.
And most police or law enforcement units I've seen, they have the saying to protect and serve.
Sure.
Okay. Well, there's the protect part. However, that serve part,
there's not a lot of that going on.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I just think we have to rethink how we, on the right, operate around local law enforcement, and have a better understanding that is the first place where our rights get tread.
Right.
Not that they're bad people, not that we don't need them. Like all the prefaces I gotta say to keep everybody from getting mad at me.
When the government becomes tyrannical, that is their enforcement arm.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly. So here's a perfect example, and I've used this before. our local sheriff came out a few years ago after the whole medical marijuana stuff and basically said, "Look, you ain't got 5 pounds." I mean, he didn't say it exactly like that, but they're not out there searching for a guy with a couple of joints.
Well, and in all reality, thanks to DeShaney v. Winnebago County Department of Social Services, the Supreme Court has actually ruled that that law enforcement has no duty to protect. And that's actually the first case. There's a second case that also backs that up. Legally, the courts have ruled that law enforcement, they've got protect and serve on the side of the cars, but they have no legal obligation to do any of that, which is in direct conflict of our founding fathers' philosophies.
Right, and again, to me, if I was a sheriff, we'd be having walk-in clinics for concealed carry permits, 7 days a week. The most polite society is armed society.
It would be an elective class at the local high school.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's my only point, and I've exaggerated a little bit to make my point here, but I'm just saying we have to, on our side, have to rethink law enforcement and how it's utilized against people, because eventually it can be utilized against us. It can.
Absolutely.
We've seen it with the FBI. So who's to say it now starts moving to state police? Look, if you've ever dealt with the Alabama Highway State Trooper, they're already. I don't have a lot of nice things to say. I'll just put it that way.
Oh, they mad. I got a speeding ticket coming back from an Auburn game to Georgia one time. Yeah, they weren't nice at all.
All right. So one other thing,
What
another
time
big
is it,
news.
though? What time is it, though?
Well, it's time for beer reviews, Dan.
It is time.
It's
for beer
6:32.
reviews.
You shut up. I
And I
was walking us
still-
right into that.
I still don't have the theme song in here for beer reviews. I promise. I'll have it next week.
There you go. It's basically the same.
Beer reviews.
Basically the same.
So, Dan, what are you drinking there, buddy? Looks like you got a little something.
I do have something.
Abita?
Abita Amber Lager.
That's a good old Louisiana beer there.
Good old fashioned. I felt like an amber today, so I went out and bought some
You
beer.
look like an amber.
Does that mean you're
Felt
trans
like an
now?
amber.
He's trans.
how to-
Amber sounds like a trans stripper name.
I don't know how to come up with that shit.
But, it's not real
I
hard.
feel like that sentence right. I felt like an amber.
Yeah.
You walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did. That's exactly how we came up with that shit.
I don't know.
If I said I felt like a Mary Jane today, would you assume I wanted to smoke a joint, or would you assume
I don't know. I'm gonna
it's
eat.
kind of up in the air? That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm drinking fucking Abita Amber Ale. Well, it's
Lager.
a lager actually, which is on the same flavor profile as the Yinglings that I usually drink.
You know, I like most stuff from Abita. I'm not a big fan of that amber lager for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Mm.
It's been quite a while since I've had it.
More
Maybe
for
I'll
me.
drink one later just to see. But
Was it Abita that did the purple haze?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
That was like the first fruit beer I ever had.
Delicious.
Back, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
big fruit
Purple
beer.
haze, and then you had Sweetwater Blue.
Yeah,
I like Sweetwater Blue, but you
I
can only
do.
drink about 2 of them. It's like drinking a blueberry muffin.
it is. It is. Absolutely.
But the Abita Andy Gator, that's good stuff. And I did not realize we were in New Orleans or Mobile, and I started drinking those. And then about the 4th one, I'm like, I'm kind of feeling this. What's the ABV? It's like 8.9 or something.
Yeah, man, that Andy Gator will get you, man.
Bro.
It's a good beer, though.
You know, it's funny. I went into next door to where you used to be the mayor.
I'm gaining that back. Since I've been off the diet, I've been kind of working on that a little bit.
Okay, so I go into the liquor store, and I went this morning, so it wasn't a busy time. And so then you get customer service at that point.
Right?
The person's like, "Can I help you find something?" I said, "No, I'm just gonna pick out a beer." So I go back, and they hadn't turned the lights on in their coolers yet. So I assume it was the manager. Comes back, flips the light on. He goes, "What kind of beer do you like?" You know, he's doing his customer service thing. I get it. And I said, "I like ambers, brown ales, things like that." So he points down the bottom and said that it was a brown ale by, I don't know who it was. It was 4 16-ounce cans for $14.98.
That's all?
And I'm like, all right, thanks. And I look down and it's like, are you out of your fucking mind? $14.98 for 4 cans of beer?
Well, what was the
No,
ABV
I
on it?
can't do. It was like 8 something,
Yeah, well, see, there you go. I mean,
Yeah.
and even this was like 11. You got 12
well, hey,
ounces.
look,
So.
price of everything. Well, the price of beer has gone up. So.
Yeah, crazy. Like my
There was a
shirt.
little lag in the inflation, beer inflation, but it's starting to kick in.
There you go. Yeah. What you drinking over there, Trav?
burnt sugar.
Burnt sugar.
So Saturday, when I went to Niceville, little 40th birthday party for a friend,
Right.
and no offense, anybody who lives north of the bay, but I don't know. I just like if I'm not working and I'm north of the bay, I'm just like I just want to go home.
Yeah, I imagine so.
But anyways, we stopped at Whole Foods. My wife wanted a specific one, and they had a Cigar City
Oh yeah.
assortment pack, 12
Nice.
pack.
Right.
It was $22, Dan. But it was 12 beers.
It was a 12-pack.
Right, and it had the Cosmic Crown, which it was okay. It wasn't
Yeah,
my
I
favorite.
like it. I like it. I got still got a couple in the fridge.
Had the High Life. No issues with the High Life.
Yeah, that's good.
Then it had the Maduros, which Dan drank my Maduros and the other half of my bottle of whiskey.
Man,
What a good friend.
right? Should be ashamed of himself. Yeah.
But the other,
We shared that bottle of whiskey.
yeah. But the other one that was in there, and I got one left. I actually got a Cosmic Crown there too. But it is the Fancy Papers
Yep.
Hazy IPA.
That's a good beer, man.
And
Yeah,
according
you've had these.
Yeah.
according to Dan, I think he would prefer to drink a hazy IPA out of a glass. I'm drinking it out of a can. I'll hold it up, good Dan
Right.
style here.
Yeah, I do a little visual thing with the hazy IPA in a
Right.
16-ounce glass.
But I actually like the Fancy Paper. The High Life's better. I will say that. The
Yeah.
High Life is their better IPA.
It is
But the Fancy Paper is pretty good.
pretty good beer. I got you.
Yeah, it's a good beer.
Yeah. Dan drank my Maduros, so.
Yeah.
I like
Well,
that
Dan will
beer.
do that to you, man. He'll drink your
I know.
beers,
I think that's why he keeps inviting me over. I just
Right.
keep showing up with booze.
and you know he knows.
Yeah, that's what it is, Travis.
All right, we're starting bonfires at my house next week. Screw this nonsense.
There you go. So all right. So
Not like I haven't been there. For a month.
I figured I'd go out on a limb once again this week, and I'm drinking Miller Lite. And I'll tell you why. So I played a gig at 38 Distillery.
Because it's Wednesday.
Well, yeah, it's Wednesday. I played a gig at 38 Distillery, and obviously at a distillery, most distilleries don't serve beer,
Right.
and but they have a great. I mean, I hate to give them a shout out without them paying for advertising, but their liquors, their spirits are excellent.
Really? Okay.
So the dude made me a smoky old fashioned,
Mm.
a rum smoky old fashioned. It was off the chain.
Yeah.
And then I had a little bourbon
Right.
and probably about 15 other drinks. And
Is that why the picture of one tire up on the curb on the road rage page was that the same night?
that was the same night. That was after, because I was like, man, you know what? They don't have any beer. Let's go get a beer.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So Mark took that picture and he put it up there. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, I didn't go too crazy. I felt all right. I was feeling a little bit, but I wasn't overboard with it.
Right.
But I had enough, and I actually am trying to cut back on my drinking a little bit. I just I think it's about time.
Well,
that
see, I was thinking about coming out there because I've never been up there, and the neighbor's daughter works up there, and I thought about
Yeah.
supporting you and her and all.
Well, I appreciate that.
However, Friday went over to our buddy Dave's house, and I was actually doing very well.
Right?
I was just kind of slow sipping bourbon. All right. However, it was like slow sipping it over 5 hours,
Right?
sitting out by the bonfire on his back porch. And
So you had 2 bonfires
That
this
shit
week.
adds up.
yeah,
Yeah.
even though I was pacing myself, you get into hour 3 of sipping on bourbon and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you guys will be proud. I pulled a Travis and passed out on the back porch for like an hour and a half.
Nice.
Until my
Nice.
wife woke me up and said, "Hey, it's time to go home." Like, I was just drinking.
So I tell you a funny story. I was telling Dan this before you got here. 38 Distillery is a small place. It's not as big as that other distillery that we used to hang out in a lot. And so they set me up to play out in the parking lot. So the first hour and a half, there's nobody there. I am literally just jamming out on guitar, playing all by myself like I would at the house. So I'm just picking and
But
grinning.
please tell me you were making a show out of it. Like,
Oh
like
yeah,
you were.
oh yeah. I'd get through playing a song, and I'm like, thank you, everybody. Nobody there.
Don't
Yeah.
all rush the stage.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, just stop throwing your panties up here.
Right.
And I was having fun with it. I mean, I was drinking liquor, and I was getting paid, and I was playing guitar. Three of my favorite things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Probably top 3 favorite with your pants on.
yes, with my pants on. Yeah, top 3 favorite with my pants on. And so I'm hanging out, and then finally the sun starts to go down because it was hot out there. I was under a tent. I was under a tent, so the few people that were there were inside.
Yeah.
And then when the sun went down, everybody came outside, and a few other folks showed up. And so I'm playing, and there's this couple there that they sold their place in Niceville, and they've moved down here. And they were like, man, why haven't we heard of you before? Man, we're and they were into it, man. I'd play an original song, and they just absolutely loved it. They's like, you give me a card, and I'm going to get you so many gigs, and la 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 la, all this stuff. So last song of the evening, it was, about to finish up. I decided to play "Driving and Crying Straight to Hell."
That's a good ender, right?
It's a good ender. It's a sing along, And so as soon as I start playing, and I get to that chorus, I'm going straight to hell. Their faces turn white and their jaws drop. I don't think I'm safe singing this song. It's a distillery. People are drinking. I have cussed a lot during this show. But when I start talking about going to hell, people say their faces literally just like, oh my gosh, they had never heard the song.
Sure.
So I had to fabricate an entire story in the middle of the song while I'm still strumming along and say, hey, this is not like AC/DC straight to hell. I mean, going, highway to hell.
Highway to hell, yeah.
This is a song about a mom telling a kid that he's acting up, that if he doesn't straighten up, he's going straight to hell.
Yeah.
And then they just lightened up and everything was fine. But
100% lie.
I absolutely just fabricated.
Well, no, that is
story.
the story of the song.
Well, partially.
Yeah.
I mean, his mom's a whore,
Right.
though. I mean,
Right,
that
sure,
first
yeah.
sentence. I mean,
80% lie.
Yeah.
80%. But it was funny that I'm playing it, and everybody's like jamming, the first verse. And as soon as I hit that chorus, man, it was like I dropped a turd in the middle of the parking lot. I'm like, oh, holy shit, man, that's crazy.
All right. Well, only 17 minutes left. So, Dan, what
Yeah.
you got?
I think I have a twofer here.
Uh-oh.
I think I have a
COVID vaccine schedule?
nope.
Oh, okay.
I have a nominee for one of the most liberty-minded organizations in the country,
All right.
along with a school that has maybe the longest name ever.
All right.
So on the evening of February 21st, the number 12, listen to the name of the school, Mid-Vermont Christian School Eagles of White River Junction.
Wow.
So their girls basketball team were scheduled to take on the number 5 team, Long Trail Mountain Lions of Dorset, which is kind of long too.
Yeah, right.
They're playing in the first round of the Vermont Division 4 girls varsity basketball tournament. So listen, this is a big deal. We all have
Right.
kids, or we've played in competitive sports. You're playing in the district playoffs. That's
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, the Eagles, which is the really long name, the first one, dropped out of the tournament and forfeited because they found out that there was a transgender, there was a biological male playing for the other team.
Good for them.
So their statement was, we withdrew from the tournament because we believe playing against an opponent with a biological male jeopardizes the fairness of the game and the safety of our players.
Good for them.
Allowing biological males to participate in women's sports sets a bad precedent for the future of women's sports in general.
Good for that school. I
Absolutely.
did not think there were that many sane people in Vermont.
And
And
God
imagine
is
they're only
on their
one place.
side,
God, well, yeah, of course.
because that team with the boy on it lost in the next round. Matter of fact,
So you're already cheating
They
because
got
you got a dude on
hammered.
your team. And good.
And then
good,
lost.
Good.
they reached out to the athletic director of the other team that had the boy on the team.
Uh-huh.
They couldn't reach him for comment.
Oh, shocker.
Oh, yeah.
Shocker.
Shocker.
Look, I can be honest with you. If I'm going to let a dude play on my women's team, and we get put out in like the second round, I'll be pissed too.
Mhm.
Like, why am I doing this if I'm not expecting to win?
Yeah.
Well, if more schools did that,
Yes.
this stuff would come to an end.
No,
Absolutely
I
it
agree.
would.
And the question, Riley Gaines from Kentucky, all-world swimmer. You know, she's on this fight across the country. You know, and it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, it's just like all these sports are going this way. And you know, my daughter asked me recently, like, we show up to a beach volleyball match, and you know, there's a guy on the other side. I'm like, you won't play. Like, I have no control over what that team does,
Right.
or the rest of our team does. But if we show up, and that's Florida sports, so that probably wouldn't happen. But if we showed up to a tournament, right, not sponsored by Florida High School Athletic Association,
Right.
Yeah, like a
and
travel
then that was the case, we would pull out. Like, we're not going to do this. This is an unfair advantage. You know, like, it just, you know, if you call it mixed co-eds, then okay, whatever. Then we know what we're getting into. But if you call it women's, then it's women's.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the fucking feminists.
They're laying down. They don't know how to act.
I mean, like, what we're literally saying in this country is, dudes are better women than actual women.
Right.
That's what a lot of folks are pointing out, and all these feminists for, well, I don't know what, 50 years now, been throwing bras and
Yeah.
you know, wearing
Which is
pink
pretty-
hats and
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah, I'm good. 86 the bras, I'm done with
Yeah.
free them.
Right.
But now you've got dudes coming in, biological males, and taking women's spots.
Right.
But like on that team, there's a young lady that did not make that team because of that guy.
Right. Exactly.
All right, so I want to keep the good news going.
Okay. What you got?
So
We've lost some viewers.
there's some good
So-
news and some bad news in this situation. The bad news is the memes out of Chicago are going to not be as good.
Beetlejuice.
No more Beetlejuice. So Lori Lightfoot, not only did she lose, but she was the first incumbent in 40 years to lose who chose to run again for Chicago mayor.
Right.
And you know why she said she lost?
Why is that?
Racism.
Oh yeah.
She's a black female. The same people who voted her in,
Right.
What are
yes.
the demographics of Chicago?
literally her demographics.
Right.
Okay.
Like, the reason why she lost is because she sucked as a mayor. Like, literally was terrible.
Yeah.
Crime is ridiculous, and she touted, as a part of her campaign, her record on crime. Like, she's oblivious to reality.
Now, I've heard the two that made the runoff aren't necessarily a whole lot better.
There's one that's a pretty extreme leftist, and the other one's considered a moderate, but it's one of those primaries
If
where...
you're moderate in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those primaries where, I don't know if it's jungle or whatever, but the top two move on.
Right, yeah.
And so
Well,
she didn't finish in the top
In
two.
December of 2021, she put this tweet out. I think this was probably her death knell, or at least played a part. To put it simply, if you have been living vaccine-free, your time is up. If you wish to live life as with the ease to do things you love, and I'm reading this verbatim, you must be vaxxed. This health order may pose an inconvenience to the unvaccinated, and in fact, it is inconvenient by design.
I don't know that I agree that that's what cost her.
You don't think so?
I mean, yeah, I mean, she wouldn't have got my vote for that alone, but I mean, like, we're talking about these folks in Chicago and Illinois, very heavily Democrat voters, and last year there was a poll that said 61% of Democrat voters were fine with the unvaccinated being fined or in prison. So, you know, I mean, if that's your base and you still can't, I mean,
You can't win.
yeah.
Dude, I don't know. I mean, there's a part of you when you see that she loses that you're like, okay, maybe they're becoming enlightened.
Well, I think she was just bad on, as far as her demo unit. I mean, she fit in. She's a black lesbian. That I don't think that impacted it at all. I just think she just did a shitty job.
She's also got the
As
lazy
mayor.
eye community too. Let's not.
That's right. That's right. And she's got the Gotham City lookalike community.
Well,
Right,
and
yeah.
You know that, if you remember during COVID, everything's locked down, and she got busted going to the hair salon.
Right.
Like for what?
Well, she's like,
Yeah.
I'm the mayor. I gotta publicly represent Chicago.
I gotta be honest. Probably deserves a refund. I don't.
Yeah, she's got like a,
Yeah.
I don't know what style.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to find out who that hairdresser is. Just on the off chance I'm in Chicago and need a haircut, I steer clear there.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
truth.
So apparently there was another traffic accident in the same location that Dan Curry's daughter had an accident. Not to get local. You know, on that issue, I think it's important to point out that both of those are state highways. And if we're going to appeal to have something different there in that at that highway, it should be to the state level. I don't think it's the county's position to do
Well, I
anything
think in
there.
those types of situations, if the county's gung ho about it, the state gets on board pretty quick. I think that's probably the stance of most people, if I had to guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, what's the state going to know? You know, the county needs to bring it up to the state to listen. There's an issue.
And
here.
we also need to look at the situations of what's going on with those accidents there. You know, any accident obviously is tragic, but sometimes people are at fault in accidents. And even though we are a no-fault state, sometimes, you know, I'm trying not to seem insensitive because hopefully nobody died in that accident and nobody was hurt as bad as they were a few weeks ago. You know, generally when there's an accident, somebody's done something. To use the insurance or legal phrase, somebody's at fault. I mean, that's that's not the legal, but they're a tortfeasor is the legal thing, which means they were the wrongdoer. That's Latin for wrongdoer, and somebody made a mistake, and typically that's what happens in accidents. And if you try to pull out in traffic or you try to do something like that, I mean, it happens. But if it's something that happens and it keeps happening right there, obviously something needs to do it. So John G says it was a gas leak with a rollover tanker. Wow.
Dang.
Yeah.
Big boom.
Yeah. Big boom. Yeah. Scary. Don't be smoking up in there, man.
Right. Hey, I do want to congratulate our county for being the only county in Florida to still be under COVID emergency.
Wait, you're not supposed to talk about county
No,
stuff.
I'm congratulating our county.
Mm.
Like we are one of 67. So congrats to us.
Well, we don't need those not-for-profits to not get that extra money. I think that's what the thing is. Yeah.
Yep. All right. What else you got, Dan?
Good news. Keeping the good news
All
going.
right. I see. I try to derail our good news.
The
Sorry.
state of Mississippi has banned trans surgeries for minors.
Good job.
It's actually
job.
now a law in the state of Mississippi.
M.I. Crickletta, humpback.
It's called the REAP Act, so it's the Regulate Experimental Adolescence Procedures Act, signed into law on February 28th. So under the legislation, which is effective immediately, individuals in the state are banned from knowingly engaging in conduct that aids or abets the performance or inducement of gender transition procedures for Mississippians under the age of 18. So the
Good.
bill also prevents any public funds or tax donations to be put towards that. And if you violate this, you're going to have your license revoked.
Hell yeah.
Good for Mississippi.
Good
Yeah.
for Mississippi.
So there's bans in other states, Alabama, Arizona, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah all have similar bans. Nebraska and Oklahoma have stuff circulating in their current, and then Florida, their legislative session's coming up, and they're going to have something in there. Don't know what the details of that is, but based on what we hear from our governor, it probably won't vary much from that.
So, I heard Daniel Horowitz from Conservative Review talking, and the topic of national divorce has been hot recently.
We're going to talk about that in the recorded
Right.
cast.
The next show.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for giving me the heads up.
Well, you got here late.
Yeah, we just told you so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so real quick, here's what his thought on it is red states actually acting like red states and behaving in a manner like California, Illinois, and New York, where, okay, you don't want to live here, cool. That's fine. You don't believe that all these things? Great. There's a door.
Yeah.
And it's these type of legislations, and I think we talked with Dr. Ward about, for the first time in really my lifetime that I know of, like Republicans, right, Liberty Mind, whatever the hell we want to call it,
Yeah.
is actually going to force the conversations on these issues.
I like it.
Whether it's school choice, whether it's the quote unquote gender affirming care on these issues, whether it's
I like it.
a million different things. We finally decided to go pick these fights, and a vast majority of people would agree that we shouldn't be chopping off healthy breasts off of Twitter, no matter how they vote.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when you frame it in that kind of way, people support it overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
And the people that don't, guess what? Get the hell up, and move. We don't need you, and we actually don't want you.
Well, I learned today, thanks to Mary Howard at the Walton Republican Women's Federated meeting today, that there is a bill in the Florida legislature right now that would require any company that offers gender affirming surgery, that's what they call it, it would force them to also offer the option of the reversal of that surgery at full cost.
Nice.
Which I think will shut down a lot of shit. I mean, you know, because they're, we'll pay for this. Or your insurance company will pay for it that we have for your benefits. But we're not paying, they're not going to want to pay to reverse it.
Right.
When they want to reverse it.
Well, I mean, it's a way of utilizing legislation to stop it in the first place.
Yeah.
It's such a discouragement.
That's a better
and a risk.
Better solution. Yours is a deterrent to keep people from getting in that business.
Yeah.
The other one is to stop kids from being harmed.
Well, here's what I don't. Why are insurance companies paying for this at all? It's got to be a
Well,
insurance. You're taking a healthy 12-year-old.
Insurance companies aren't paying for this. I mean, from my knowledge, now it's been a while since I've been in insurance, but this is not a surgery that insurance has ever paid for.
Right, but what about the doctor's visits and the prescriptions and
who's paying for it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, is this completely out of pocket? I can't imagine it is.
Well, any cosmetic surgery, which is what,
Well, is it deemed a cosmetic surgery?
I don't think it is.
Well, so
It is.
Used to be.
Right.
It
Well,
is.
Right. It is. But so eventually, do the insurance companies start to push back? Like, yeah, no, homie, we're good because so I think about it like this. My daughter's 16. She sees OBGYN actually twice a year, kind of checking on prescriptions, and she's got some recurring prescriptions. Other than that, and they're generic prescriptions. Like, it's not. However, let's just walk through. Like, she wants to be a dude, and now we're doing a double mastectomy, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, and she's got.
You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And the insurance company's on the hook for it. So I don't know.
I don't know, but we're coming up on the end.
All right,
You got something
I got
else?
one more positive news.
All right.
So, apparently there was an election for chair of Florida Democrat Party chair, and our favorite governor, Bud Bikini.
Yeah, bikini populism.
Populism
Going strong,
candidate
baby.
Yeah.
Won.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such great news.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because she's such a car wreck. She's been a car wreck as AgSec. She was a car wreck as a candidate.
Gubernatorial candidate, yep.
She's been a car wreck in her ridiculous attacks on DeSantis, and she did another one today where she encouraged people to go do bogus fake reviews on his book. That's
the number
in
one
pre-sales.
best-selling book in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
So now she's the Florida Democrat Party chair.
Hey, look, let's take
Fucking beautiful.
my excitement over the continued rise of bikini populism, okay, and let's set that to the side. If you guys remember a couple years ago when Tho was sitting here, Tho Bishop, our friend, was sitting with us,
Yeah.
and you remember he said, like, oh, well, if we do this, and I, it's the common conversation we have. Well, if our opponents get this power, they'll wield it. And what was his answer? Well, just don't ever let them get that power. So I feel like with them electing Nikki Fried, we're a step closer to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And did you know there's a bill to cancel the Florida Democratic Party over their position on slavery? Have you seen that?
Yeah. There is a bill to do away with them. Any party that's ever supported slavery.
See,
So, Nikki Fried's post today, somebody had posted that the lockdown lobbyist was elected. So what I did is I grabbed that picture.
yeah, that's a good one. That's the
And
start
I
of
said-
bikini populism.
I said, how about pandering bikini populist?
Yes.
Hashtag Budweiser hat purchased for this stage photo.
We're going to Dom. We'll go back to that tweet.
Oh, that's
You killed it. Never mind.
no. I can get it back up because that was like one of the two that I commented on today.
I just wanted to read it because the ridiculousness of the actual verbiage that she wrote in the tweet.
So she shared this, which was posted by the Florida GOP, and she says, "Come on, can't you be more creative than lockdown lobbyists?" So 2020 is what she put. And then my post on that tweet, I responded because one of my favorite things to do when I have a few minutes is to troll Nikki Fried. Is I put, "How about pandering bikini populists?" And then, of course, in the tweet that I shared, I made sure to include the text. I just did a screenshot where she says, "We're going to dominate Ron DeSantis in South Florida, but we're going to do just fine in North Florida, too." Yeah, that didn't work out for you, Nikki Fried. I mean,
although Nikki did do much better in the Panhandle than the rest of the state, as we discussed at length.
yeah.
So, at some point during her campaign, it wasn't her. It was somebody. I assume it was somebody running her social media marketing or whatever. She messaged me via Twitter
Yeah.
asking for my vote.
Yeah.
So I replied, "Absolutely not." We talked about that at the time.
Mhm.
And then when she lost to Charlie Crist, I messaged her back and said, "Are you okay?" And then today, after this ridiculous stunt she did with the fake reviews
Yeah.
and her winning the chair, I just said to her, "Couldn't think of anyone better to lead the Florida Democrat Party."
So
Nice.
right when you got the, "Hey, I'm running for governor," the Nikki Fried.
Yeah.
There you
My
go.
response was like, "Can I count on you to stick with us and chip in what you can to make our state feel like home again?" My response was, "Maybe. If I donate, will I get more bikini selfies?" But when I went to look that up to say that, it pulls up her Twitter profile,
Right?
and I gotta be honest with you, it's probably the most proud I've been of this state, which is saying something,
Yeah.
in quite a while, because her Twitter profile reads as such: Chairwoman of Florida Dems, Florida's last statewide elected Democrat,
Last. I love it.
past Commissioner of Agriculture, Blue Heart, Florida, hashtag something new, hashtag won't back down. Oh man. You just-
Hashtag get your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
yeah, by freaking what's the what was the lady from the Golden Girls? It's all white that Charlie Crist looks like.
Which one? I think he looks
B.
like
Arthur.
B. Arthur. Yeah.
What was that character? Crap.
Man, I never watched that.
Come
show.
on, Dan. Come on, Dan.
Dan
I
used to
don't
watch
that shit.
He used to watch the shit out of that show.
I watch
He's not a
movies.
man.
I don't watch that show.
All right. think that's
All right,
about time, isn't
did we kill it?
We good?
Yeah, we're out of time, man. Nobody's watching anyway.
We
at
killed
this
it so
point.
much we ran everybody
done
off.
ran everybody off. I probably ran everybody off with my comments about people being at fault in accidents. So that's when we started dropping off. But hey, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the Driveway Liberty podcast. Be sure to check out our audio cast. You can find that on Spotify and iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are available. Podomatic, which we are still number one in politics on there. And thanks so much. Share the broadcast with your friends and family. And remember, if you'd like the cast and you'd like to support the cast, you can go to patreon.com/Driveway Liberty Podcast. And then you can support us for as little as $5 a month. You spend a little bit more and you can get some free merch. With that being said, for Travis and Dan, I am your Uncle Wes. We'll see you next time on the Driveway Liberty Podcast.